Welcome to FBB Forum. My name is David, and this podcast is dedicated to amazing muscle ladies. If you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm super stoked to welcome the stunning IFBB Pro women's physique competitor, Blanca Rodrigues, to the podcast. Blanca recently returned to her maiden name, but you can find pics and videos of her under her former married name, Villoch, which is spelled V as in Victor, Illoch. Blanca won her pro card at the 2021 NPC Nationals, and her most recent competition was the Atlantic Coast in Fort Lauderdale. And she even had a brief stint in figure at Daytona Pro this year. Welcome, Blanca. It's really good to see you.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here on your podcast.
Thank you. So I was curious in terms of how did you get started in bodybuilding? Did you have an athletic or sports background when you first started?
Yeah, I've been an athlete all my life. Ever since I was a kid, I love sports. As soon as I could play, I got into it. So I was pretty much in sports up until my senior year of high school. My senior year of high school, I got my first gym membership, and it was over after that. I was a gym rat after that. And I was 17 at the time. I was from New Jersey originally, and I remember seeing the flyers of the bodybuilding shows on the wall, and just looking at the women, and just being so excited to eventually do that one day. But it was a while before I finally got on stage. I went to college, and then I got a degree, so that took up a lot of my time. I was kind of just in and out of the gym at the time, nothing really focused on anything. I actually started working a corporate job after college, got back consistently into the gym, but really couldn't reach any of my goals, and bodybuilding was still kind of like in the future for me. Basically, my first real competitions as an adult was marathon running. I got into marathon running when I worked in corporate.
Okay.
Which that was nice. It was I did that for a few years. I ran a few marathons, but then I found myself kind of like stuck where I wasn't very fulfilled with my corporate job, and the job was keeping me from basically pursuing a lot of endeavors that I liked, like health and fitness was something that, I got into corporate because it was what I should have done. Not really what fulfilled me. So long story short, when I turned 30, I basically left my corporate job. I got certified as a personal trainer. And then at that point, I wanted to get into bodybuilding, but I really didn't have the muscle for it. I did not want to start out as a bikini competitor.
Sure.
So I was like, let me try to build some muscle before I get on stage. So I stumbled into powerlifting, the gym that I was training clients at. There was a lot of powerlifting going on, and I was like, you know what, let me give that a shot. And turns out I was very, very strong. And before I knew it, I was catapulted to the top of powerlifting. So I was a pro powerlifter for 5 years. That allowed me to build the muscle that I needed to finally step on stage in a division that I wanted to be in. And I was hoping to become a figure competitor, but by the time I got on stage, I had the muscle for physique. And so that's basically my first competition. I transitioned from powerlifting to bodybuilding in 2021.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. And that was the year that you got your pro card too.
Yeah, I got catapulted very quickly to the IFBB stage because I did my first show. I won the overall at Hurricane Pro here in St. Pete.
Yeah.
And that qualified me for nationals. So I went ahead in December and competed at nationals, and I earned my pro card. So I basically got the pro card in 2 shows.
Wow, that's terrific. That's so cool. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people spend many years working towards that. I mean, I kind of did in a way, but it was in powerlifting, building my muscle. So yeah, I finally this year figured out where I belong on the IFBB stage, which is a completely different world from the amateur stage.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's cool. Yeah, that's great that you built up the muscle and the kind of the base that you needed for bodybuilding through powerlifting. And I've seen so many women that started in bodybuilding and then they took a break and did powerlifting, and then they came back just better than ever. They just built up so much muscle and just looked better, from the powerlifting.
Yeah, everybody wants dense muscle, but there's a certain type of training, really hard training, heavy training that allows you to build that type of muscle.
Hmm.
I even kind of stepped away from it last year when I prepped for the Tampa Pro. It was my pro debut. A lot of people were telling me, oh, the barbell work, it's not optimal for bodybuilding. You need to just, and I listened to everybody and was not happy with my physique at the Tampa Pro last year.
Hmm.
I basically lost all of my muscle density. My posterior especially did not look the way it looked on the national stage.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I redeemed myself at the Atlantic Pro with my training and how I prepped. I mean, really, this last show, it was my best showing. I was happy with the conditioning. I was happy with my density, and then the size too, which I struggled to maintain my size on the national stage. I brought the conditioning, but I did lose some of my size. So
Sure. No, you look terrific at Atlantic Coast. And I actually did, I think I've seen you compete at all your shows, maybe because I did see you at Tampa Pro last year too. So,
okay, yeah.
yeah, you've done a lot of good shows. And
And I feel fortunate to be in Florida because I feel like Florida is like the place to be for bodybuilding.
it is, yeah. Yeah, to have even, the Olympia here every other year, it's just, that's incredible. I hope that, like we said earlier, I hope that that continues because from a fan perspective, having the Olympia here is just amazing.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you have that option every other year possibly to attend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, I was curious when you first started competing in bodybuilding, were you nervous getting on stage? And do you get nervous these days? Because I think just getting up on stage in a bikini would be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was definitely very different from powerlifting. Obviously the years in powerlifting, I was at the top meet. So a lot of the competitions were live streamed and a lot of the eyes were on me. So
Hmm.
I kind of went into this already with that kind of experience, but it's a completely different type of performance.
Hmm.
So I was extremely nervous, especially with the posing, because again, having done powerlifting for so long, you practice, being very tight, very like, just not fluid. And
Hmm.
I had to completely switch gears for that. So that's been the toughest part for me, is the posing. But again, this last show, it just, having done the figure show and not being able to do all the posing made me miss it, made me appreciate it, and I finally connected with it as an art.
Yeah.
So I'm so comfortable now this last show, but it wasn't like that at the very beginning.
Yeah, I understand. Are you working with a posing coach?
Yes, I have worked with a posing coach since the very beginning. I
Mhm.
worked with Janine Lankowski for my
Mhm.
first show and going into nationals. So yeah, she basically helped me with my posing tremendously. And then let's see, last year, the prep coach that I had, Brandon Ray, is pretty good with posing. So he helped me, elevated my posing even more. And then this last season, I hired Kristina Mendoza, who was
Oh,
amazing. I mean, taught me the figure posing and the heels, everything, and then even tweaked my posing for women's physique. So yeah, I do work with a posing coach.
that's great. Yeah, Christina is amazing. She's just so, and she just flows so well on stage. But it sounds like she's a great coach as well. So that's great
Yeah.
to work with her. I was bummed that she couldn't come to the Olympia, but I think she just prepped so long. I think she had to watch out for her health and stuff. So,
Yeah, and I really admire that because it's hard, especially I can't
Mhm.
imagine what it's like. You're headed to the Olympia. This is what you've been waiting for, and then your body just doesn't, which I understand about the body not cooperating, because I will let you know that this last show, if it had been a couple more weeks, my body was not going to cooperate with me. So,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I get it and I admire her for it. But yeah, I was kind of bummed. I would have loved to see her up there.
Yeah, no, but to look out for her health, that's the most important thing, and to know when to not when to stop. I mean, I think that's important. So
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
that's good for other competitors to see, especially amateurs and stuff like that, to understand, health is important, and that's something that I prioritize, is mental health and physical health.
yeah, I like that. Is that it says relax behind you? I think.
Yes, exactly. It's mental.
I like that. That's good. Now I was curious, when you earned your pro card at the 2021 Nationals, I bet that was a really exciting time for you. Were you kind of surprised that you won the pro card so soon?
Yes and no. I knew I knew the physique I was bringing to the stage, and I wasn't just a regular amateur. It had been years of basically preparing for that moment. It's just, it wasn't, the main focus. Um, so it was a really exciting time. I went in there very confident. The competition really kind of surprised me because the overall, obviously, I had some competition, but it wasn't as much like a nationals, especially that nationals. I didn't realize was probably one of the biggest national shows.
Mhm.
So I was really proud to get my pro card. I was especially proud to get it there, really fighting for it, competing for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it was one of these things where I had so much confidence going into the pro debut, and then I realized, whoa, the pro stage is very, very different from amateur.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
I
definitely.
had a fantastic time, and I celebrated after. It was an amazing feeling, and it was great. I felt very accomplished.
That's great. Yeah. We were talking about earlier about that was the NPC Nationals where Julia Monroe got her the overall, and now she's gone on to do the Olympia. And so yeah, that was a very good show. There was so much tough competition there, but you looked really good there. It's really stood out.
Thanks. Yeah, and like I've always been one to, do the big shows and really go where the competition was at. So because I like to see where I stack up.
Mhm.
And even this last show and having I think it was like 4 Olympians do the show. It was nice to be next to them and finally see where I kind of stack up in that lineup.
Yeah, it's kind of good to see them in person too. And then
Mhm.
yeah, and sometimes you're like, yeah, they're not that big, you know.
Oh, yeah, when you see people in person, and people tell me sometimes too that I seem bigger on the internet than I am in person.
I understand. Yeah. I think that's true of bodybuilders. Y'all have like an optical illusion that you produce, when you're on stage.
Mhm. Yeah, but that's good though. That's a good thing.
It is, yeah. Now I know you competed in both open and masters at the Atlantic coast. And what was your experience like there? And would you consider doing both again, open and masters?
Um, that show I did it because it was on the same day. I did not do it at Daytona because they had it on separate days. And for
Mhm.
me, my priority is the open, and I want to be at my very best for the open. I don't want to compromise that.
Mhm.
It was really fun doing Masters 40 and up at this show. I may do it again in the future. For me, right now, my priority is the open.
Okay, very cool. I was surprised you were doing masters. I thought you were younger than that. So.
Yeah, I think I surprised some people. Yeah, I feel fortunate to look much younger, but then again, I think it's how you feel too, and I definitely I feel young at heart.
Yeah, definitely. And I think bodybuilding produces a lot of longevity too, and keeps you young.
Yeah, people think that masters, oh, it's older, it's going to be easy. And it's actually not. It's actually could be more challenging because you have these competitors that have been pretty much training their whole life, building muscle their whole life. They have that muscle maturity. It is very challenging.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I'm impressed with ladies like Sherry Priami who are just sticking with open, and she's like 48, but she's at the top of her game now, and yeah, and I think it's really impressive, but it does kind of show bodybuilding being fountain of youth, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and I like to inspire people because I do come across people that are my age and they start to talk like they're old, like, oh, I'm old. I'm like, no, no,
Mhm.
you're as old as you allow yourself to feel.
Yeah, definitely, I understand.
The best that I've looked, the best I've felt. This is the strong, pretty much the strongest I've been, aesthetically, the best everything. So I'm kind of going with it and seeing how far I can take it.
Now, would you consider doing powerlifting again, or while you're doing bodybuilding? I know some ladies have been doing that where they'll kind of alternate, or even do powerlifting and bodybuilding in the same year.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm retired from powerlifting. The thing is to have done it at the high level that I did. I pushed myself so hard. I sacrificed a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear in the body. I basically tore my rotator cuff towards the end, and at that point, I just knew that in powerlifting at that level, and then also to be 148 pounds, squatting 500 pounds, deadlifting 500 pounds, benching 250. You know, not a lot of women are doing that, and it's a lot on the body, because my
Yeah.
body's not supposed to handle all that weight. So once I started feeling my mobility affected, I started getting injuries and stuff like that. I said, you know what? And you can't serve two masters. That's that saying that I live by, is like, you either put yourself into one thing 100%, or, you can't be the best at both. One's gotta give.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the issue a lot, even though I do a lot of heavy training, I have to learn how to adjust. And that was very key this last prep, where I was getting so much inflammation in my legs. I couldn't see the cuts in my legs. So I had to back off from a lot of the heavy movements, but then keep them a little bit in to keep the density, because if not, I lose the density. So it's tricky. It's a balance that I'm still kind of figuring out. I think I've figured it out. But as for competing, no more powerlifting.
Sure, I understand. That's amazing. 500 pounds, like you like rip your arms off doing that. That's crazy.
Yeah, at the top of my game in powerlifting, I was number 3 in the world all time for 148 pounds.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Wow. That's so cool though. That's really cool accomplishment, and bragging rights too. I think that's awesome.
And see, it took me a while to, give myself the credit, because that's the thing when you're so like focused on a goal that, you can't really be satisfied with what you do, because then once you're satisfied, you stop pushing.
Yeah.
So I remember hitting those lifts and everybody making a huge deal about it and stuff. And then me just being like, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next goal? How do I add 10 more pounds,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, and then that goes with bodybuilding too. I feel like a lot of competitors, they accomplish great things, they have great placings, but they don't really truly allow themselves to appreciate it, because there's this saying that goes like, satisfaction is the death of desire.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, you got to live by that word that's behind you there. Relax.
Relax, yeah. I'm doing now. That's one thing that now in bodybuilding, I'm learning more. I have more balance. I told myself I'm spending 6 months, prepping, competing, then 6 months off season. That's kind of my plan right now. And really learning to back off in the off season, like get the work done, but also have some flexibility where there's things, my personal life, my business, that have to take the front seat, during the off season, which I struggled with that when I was in powerlifting.
I see. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
felt this is my second crack at it, where I get to take everything that I learned before and apply it to bodybuilding.
That's great. No, it's good. That's good to have that kind of base to work from too. And since you were at the top of your game there, I think over time you could be top of your game at bodybuilding too. I think definitely.
Yeah, the thing with bodybuilding, what I had to really accept is that it's a long game. It's all about accruing data. You don't just, I feel so fortunate that I was able to get my pro card in 2021, but I'm realizing now on the IFBB stage where it's really, really tough. It's like, every season accruing more data, because it's all personal. It's all, everybody's different, so it might work for me, might not work for somebody else, with nutrition, with cardio, with training. So I feel like I'm in a good spot, and I'm really glad that I competed this year, because regardless of placings or anything, I figured out a lot of the things that I needed to with regard to training, recovery, things like that.
Yeah, I definitely understand. That's really good. That's good. And one thing I was curious about, do you hope to compete next year, or do you know where you might want to compete?
Yeah, I definitely want to compete. Like I said, my goal is going to be now taking, about 6 months off, and then starting prep for next year, competing towards the end of the year. I would like to keep the shows in Florida, just as one less thing to have to deal with the travel. And it's much harder to compete traveling in bodybuilding than it was in powerlifting. Powerlifting was easy. There wasn't much to do. With this, there's so many variables. So I want to keep it here in Florida if possible. I'd like to do 2 shows. I'm thinking about doing a Tampa Pro again, just because it's right here. And maybe Daytona. So we'll see when the list comes out, but I'm definitely going to compete next year, and it's going to be in women's physique.
That'd be great. Yeah, Tampa and Daytona are relatively close together too, like 2 months apart or whatever. So yeah,
Be a long prep like that. Yeah, because this was a little too much. I mean, I didn't even think I was going to compete. This year I started just kind of like a summer diet around like April, which was pretty chill in the beginning, but then started going so well. And then, I had some time and my personal life. So then I was like, let's give it a shot. And then I wanted to try figure. So again, I'm just glad that I went ahead and did it. I'm glad that I was able to do everything that I did without really much strategy, just whatever happens, happens. But I am excited next season to have more strategy, have more planning and everything, because I will obviously be doing better that way.
That's terrific. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, and you can work with your coaches that way. And
Mhm.
I was curious, did you get any feedback from judges in terms of where to improve your physique?
Yeah, basically, obviously conditioning is always thrown in there. Everybody wants to see you a little more conditioned. But it's pretty obvious. My shoulders need to come up and some parts of my back too, because I have a very great, dense back, but I do need it to be a little wider. I need a little bigger shoulders. One of the reasons why, figure I decided was not for me is just structurally, I have a narrow clavicle.
Hmm.
So I don't have that, even though I have shoulders, I don't have broad shoulders.
Hmm. Yeah,
So really just adding some more size to my upper body, my arms, things like that. I don't think I need too much size from what it appears. But yeah, a little bit more size, a little bit more conditioning.
that's terrific. That sounds good. Yeah, I think that's a good formula to help you place higher too.
Mhm.
Um, and now you mentioned posing coach, but do you have a current prep coach, or is that Brandon?
Oh, no, I'm working with Jon Ballard. He's a young and up and coming coach. He trains out of MI40. That's where I train as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm very particular with coaches. I've had good experiences, bad experiences. So I definitely wanted to work with somebody that I could work with online, but that I knew in person, that would see me in person. And I knew, John's methods. He's very precise, he's all about data, accruing data. And one of the things that I liked about him was he runs mock peaks, which I was like dying to do, to really figure out the whole peak before we did the peak, because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
will go to the first show kind of just seeing what happens and then using that first show for the next one. And I'm like, I don't want to waste any time here. I want to go with a game plan. So
Mm-hmm.
he was on board with it, and honestly, he peaked me fantastic. I think it was definitely the best peak I've ever had. I was truly peaked, kept the size, had great conditioning. I was very happy with what I brought to the stage. So I'm going to be working with him in the off season now, using all that data that we accrued, for really good strategy for the season.
That's great. I think that sounds like a great strategy. And yeah, you did. You looked really good this year, I thought. Um, but like you said, having the kind of the full year to kind of plan out the strategy and work on the data, that would really help you a lot, I think, too.
Yeah, yeah. Especially because last season, I was kind of burnt out after a Tampa Pro. I wasn't very happy with my physique on the stage, how I peaked, all that. So did some soul searching. I decided to run a marathon again, that I hadn't run a marathon in like a decade. So I ran a
Wow.
marathon. I did bodybuilding in the off season, but it wasn't 100% focus.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, again, I'm so happy with what I put up on the stage, not having had a full, bodybuilding season and stuff like that. So now
Yeah,
this is going to be good next season with everything, really the way it's supposed to be done, all boxes checked.
that's terrific. That's great. Now, when you say mock peak, what do you mean? Like you're like kind of just testing out like a peak before the show, or how far
Yeah,
out?
just like doing a kind of like practice peak,
Uh-huh.
depleting the body like you would, and then filling it up to see how much you need to be full without spilling over.
Oh, how much time before the show that you would do that?
Well, you got to be very lean for it. So we did right before Daytona, we did 2 mock peaks the month before.
Wow. Is that tough to do though? Because it just seems like it would be kind of tough to do because it's tough enough to get peak for a show, but to kind of force your body to do a mock one like that, would be.
Yeah, but the body responds pretty well after that, because if you notice, someone does a show, they
Mhm.
always look better afterwards. So it actually, I was so lean up to that point that the mock peaks actually helped my physique. It helped us get closer to the goal.
Really?
My
Huh.
body responded very well. So it was like getting that response, but then also having the data going into the show.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I've never heard of that before. I think that's terrific. That's a great idea to do that.
Yeah, not a lot of coaches are, do that. So when I found out that he did, I was like, okay, and I see you in person, I know you, like, let's do this. And it worked out. It's been great so far.
That's terrific. Very cool. I'll include your coach's IG links down below so that fans can reach out to him if they'd like to, or
Oh,
if they
great.
want to work with him too. So, and down in the comment section. Now I was curious, do you kind of have a hard time dealing with that transition between competition shape and off-season shape? Because I think, a lot of muscle ladies kind of go through some form of body dysmorphia.
Yeah, to be honest with you, last off season was the first time that I was very, very happy and content with my off season body. And I think it's just finally, realizing that it's cyclical. I'm going to have a part of the year where I'm going to be shredded, and that's going to come with its pros and cons. And then the other half of the year, I'm going to allow my body to just, be soft and train hard and all the good things that come along with it. So I try to focus on the positives, of the situation. I get to eat more. I get to have flexibility in my life. I'll wear stretchy pants and dress a little differently. I have a wardrobe for my in season and off season.
Okay. Yeah.
And knowing that the body looks different now, it looks beautiful, in a different way. And at some point, again, you're going to be shredded. It's going to come, but you need to go through that process. So I think it's accepting that.
Sure.
But I
Plus,
struggled for a while. It's a process that I think every woman especially has to go through because, I think society puts so much pressure on women to have this beauty standard.
yeah, I understand that. And that's the only way you're going to improve too, is to go through a whole, regular off season and grow. And so, yeah, it's not healthy to stay lean year round either. And I don't
No,
think people necessarily know that outside of bodybuilding.
no. And I see a lot, I do see some competitors that are like shredded all year round. And I feel like that's kind of like a bad example that they're setting for other people because it's not healthy. It's not,
Mhm.
especially for, it's just not healthy. So.
Yeah, no, I think just long-term longevity, probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you have to worry about your health too. And that's one thing that now, especially at my age, I'm putting as a priority, is my health.
sure. Yeah, I understand.
But I will say I do not pack on the weight in the off season. I feel like, excessive weight is also not good either. And then it's going to put a lot of pressure on the person to take up all the weight during prep, make it more stressful. So I feel like, for me personally, I like to keep it. Last off season, I was at 18%. I want to be at 15% body fat this off season.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
Very controlled off season. It's just enough to build muscle, give your body a break, but not too much where you're unhappy with the way you look, and then it's going to be that much more dieting and stress on your body during the season.
I understand. That's good. Yeah, that's a good goal, I think, to reach too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I know you're known as Cuban Muscle Barbie on IG, and I was
Yeah.
curious, are you from Cuba, or is your parents from Cuba?
No, I was born and raised in New Jersey. I am half Cuban and half Portuguese. My mother is Cuban and my father is Portuguese. So it's an interesting mix that you see more in like the Northeast. Uh,
Yeah,
but I grew up with my mom's side of the family, my Cuban side. So I really identify as Cuban mostly.
very cool. That's awesome. I just like that. That's kind of a funny name. Probably people might know you by that. Cuban Muscle Barbie versus your real name.
Yeah, they're starting to, and I kind of like it. It's unique.
It is. It's kind of catchy. I like it. Now, are your parents supportive of your bodybuilding career? Because I think it makes a big difference, when you have family support.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was very happy to have my mom at my shows this season. She's been my number one fan since I was a kid. She was always at all my games cheering for me, sometimes a little bit too loud. So she's super supportive and proud of me. And like, I really, it does make all the difference because you can do this alone, but it's not fun that way. It's harder. So really having a good support system of not only just family, but also friends, which I feel very fortunate to be surrounded by a bunch of friends that are, kind of pretty much in the same thing that I'm doing, bodybuilding, or at least in the fitness world.
Mhm.
So again, it's like I feel invincible with my support system, which I wish everybody could feel that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've talked to some ladies where their parents don't support them and or they're pursuing bodybuilding, and I think it's kind of devastating. I think it's just kind of sad. So it's
Yeah,
good
it
to have
is.
that support.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does, yeah. And I think Tampa itself is just a really supportive community for bodybuilding. There's a lot of great gyms here and a lot of top bodybuilders and amateurs here too.
Oh yeah, I don't see myself moving from here. I've been here for a while, and a while back I thought about moving, but there's no way because again, between not just the bodybuilding that's here, but also just here in Tampa and Florida, people are more into health and fitness than they are in other places. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm a coach and personal trainer. So for me, like looking at places in the Northeast, I realize a lot of them, you know, and they'll fall off in the wintertime because it's cold. You know, it's not that big up there and other places where I've traveled. So here, I love that it's like year round. Everybody, for the most part, is into health and fitness. There's a bunch of shows down here, and not just in even bodybuilding, but there was even in powerlifting. There was a ton of competitions down here. So
Mm.
yeah, this is where I'm going to stay just for that reason, for the most part.
I think Tampa's a great place to live too. It's just kind of a best kept secret, you know, like because yeah, a lot of people don't know much about Tampa, but I just think it's a great city in general.
It is, and it's getting found out. There's too many people moving here. The
Oh,
property
that's true.
skyrocketing.
I know it is. It's really skyrocketing lately. It's getting too big.
Yeah, I
um,
enjoy it.
and spreading out. It's just amazing how far, you know, people are living now, you know, out in Riverview and Wesley Chapel and everything. It's just spreading,
Mhm.
you know. um, okay, well, we're almost out of time. I was wondering if you'd do me a favor and do a quick flex, but let me mute myself real quick and say something.
Get a little tricep there. All right, and then I'll just give you another bicep one.
Very good. Thank you so much. You look awesome.
No, thanks for having me. You know, I really
Hmm.
appreciate being on the podcast, and it was a pleasure speaking with you and kind of sharing my story, my background.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great to learn more about you. And yeah, I really wish you the best for next year. I think you're gonna do fantastic next year. And I'm hoping first call outs at least. You got to get first call outs.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the goal. We'll see what happens, but regardless, I enjoyed him tremendously. So that makes me happy, and that fills my cup. Just getting on stage.
Oh yeah, very cool. Yeah, you look terrific up there. Well, thank
Thanks. I
you.
really appreciate the support.
Thank you. And I'll try to get this posted soon. I got to go to my daughter's soccer game, so it might be later. So
Oh, no problem. I appreciate it.
thanks, Blanca.
Have a good one. Good night.
Good night.